everyone, it's Ozzy and welcome back to my channel. If you've been wanting to spice up your beaded bracelets and make them more chunky, cluster style, and colorful, you're in the right place. Today I'm breaking down a highly requested cluster bracelet tutorial using the same process that I use for my small jewelry business. These chunky, clutter style bracelets are one of my favorites to make and kind of a staple for my jewelry business, so I can't wait to show you my process. Now, I'm not going to go in depth on my tools and supplies today, but feel free to watch either of these previous videos to get a super in-depth breakdown of all of the tools and supplies that I use, and all of the tools and materials that I use along with shipping supplies, beads, other small business stuff is all linked in my Amazon storefront in the description, so feel free to check that out if you'd like. Without further ado, let's go. First, we need to pinpoint our inspiration for this bracelet, so to Pinterest we go. I was really feeling a pink aesthetic theme, and can we have a moment of silence for how many ads are on Pinterest now? I have an ad blocker, and this is how many empty spaces there would have been ads in. Then I saw Miss Marie from Aristocats with her adorable pink bow, and I decided to just kind of go for her vibe, along with a ballet-core, pink and girly vibe for today's bracelet. Now for turning our inspiration into the actual design of the bracelet. I try to generally take the color scheme and some of the motifs of my inspiration and incorporate them into my bracelet. So for this, we're gonna do a lot of white and pink and pearl beads. And the repetitive motif is a lot of bows and a very coquette vibe, and also some animal or cat themed beads like the paw print bead that I'll show you later. I have done this process of translating the vibe and the color scheme and the aesthetic of a lot of different types of media into my bracelets over the years. For example, characters from different TV shows, some of my favorite album covers, I'll show you on the screen here. And what I love about this, and I love about doing this as a small business, is it's a really fun and subtle way for fans to support their favorite characters or their favorite media, especially if they don't want to have super obvious merch. It's more subtle, and they get to support a small business in the process too. So yeah, that's a little bit about how I select beads for my designs, and also why I do bracelets inspired by types of media. Often for me, it's also because I'm a fan, and it's a way for me to express my love for those characters or that media. Here is the super cute pink paw bead that I was describing earlier, and as you can see, I am making a bead soup. I made a bead soup as well in my ultimate cluster keychain tutorial, and it's just a really great way to brainstorm and feel out how these beads are pairing together and if they really mesh well together before you put them into the bracelet. I don't make a bead soup every single time, but I like to for these tutorials because it really showcases how I collect beads and which ones I put together. Here is our final bead soup. Now that we have our beads picked out, it's time to actually lay out our design. I paired two groups of beads together before every jump ring, so it'll be 2 beads, then a jump ring, and then 2 beads, and then a jump ring, and so on. And these main beads, I like to be the chunkier, larger, more statement beads, and then below this is going to be a layer of smaller accent beads. So right now, I'm grabbing out the main statement beads, as you can see, and laying them out. I'm trying to space out the pink and white, which is another design tip. Whenever you're working with 2 different colors in a bracelet, try to spread them out and place the different colors next to each other. This will make it more visually balanced and more fun and vibrant to look at because those different colors are playing off of one another rather than just having all white on one side and all pink on another side. As you can see, I'm grouping the large beads in pairs of 2, and typically it's a white bead with a pink bead to vary it up. These are our last 2 large beads, and once I place them down, you can see that there's 3 sets of 2 beads on each side, if that makes sense. So 6 sets total. And as you can see in our bead soup, what is left is mainly just accent beads, which I'm going to place on the row below. A bead design board is really useful for helping lay out multi-layered designs, so I have one similar to mine linked in my Amazon storefront, but you do not need a design board in order to make jewelry. You can definitely just do all of this on your desk. Now, I like to group these little accent beads in pairs of 2 and then 3 in the middle of the bracelet. Where the silver bow is the middle of the bracelet, so that spot will have 3 accent beads, and then all the other little spaces are gonna have 2 accent beads. I hope that makes sense. And the little spaces are where the jump rings are gonna go, which we'll get into in the next section putting it all together, but I hope that's making sense so far.
Here I
am changing my mind and moving these little heart accent beads, but as you can see, we've got 3 in the middle here, and then 2, and then 2. I took a look at my bead soup and I noticed that I hadn't put the white bow anywhere, so I actually switched out one of the main beads with this little white bow to make sure that that's there. With that, we have our entire design laid out, and now I'm going to show you how to put it all onto wire and how to connect it all. Now for actually constructing the bracelet, first of all, we're going to pull out the jump rings that we will be using, which is the 2nd and 3rd size in the pack that I have. And I like to just lay them out in big piles so that they're really easy to grab. And I got a couple comments on the last video about this golden thing in my jump ring holder, and that's actually a jump ring opener ring. I have never gotten used to using it, but I've heard that it's super convenient, so definitely give it a try yourself if you end up buying this set of jump rings. But yeah, I've just never really used it. And I don't even know what finger it's supposed to go on, so yeah, I just didn't include it in the last video. With wiring our beads, we're going to start first with the bottom accent beads, and I am actually going to abandon my spool of wire just for these and use these little eye pins that have round ends at the bottom. I specifically use these on accent beads because they look cleaner. And now we're using our one-step looper, which if you need a more basic, in-depth jewelry tutorial where I teach you how to use the one-step looper and how to close out these loops and all those little details, I would suggest watching this video first and then coming back to this bracelet tutorial. I also received a comment in my last video that was asking where all the extra wire scraps go because they look like they fly everywhere. I do hold my one-step looper super close to the camera for these videos, but typically I actually hold it down here right over this little divot in my beadboard, and usually, not this time, but usually that catches my scraps, or I'll just grab the scraps and throw them in there. Occasionally I'll have an accent bead like this pearl where it doesn't actually sit on the wire, so with that one we won't be able to use an eye pin, and we're just gonna have to do the traditional loop on either end with the one-step looper. This little heart charm is similar in that we also can't use an eye pin, but instead we're going to use a jump ring and just slide that on there, and that's how the heart will be connected to the bracelet. This is our last accent bead, so ta-da! Our bottom row is completely wired. Now I'm going to wire our top layer, which, like I said, is going to be 2 beads per piece of wire, and I'm just going to play some footage of that with some background music and then pop in if I have any tips and tricks. My first little tip here is, while in the previous tutorial I showed you how to push a wire all the way through the back of your one-step looper, you don't have to do that, and it does save wire if you just make sure that the end of the wire is enough for the little claws to make the loop. And as always, you want to make sure that that loop is fully closed with your own pliers and make sure it's nice and secure. And just like I mentioned in the cluster keychain tutorial, you're going to want to make sure that both of those ends are flat by taking both your pliers and making sure that they're sitting the same way, like you can see here. This will ensure in the long run that our bracelet sits flat when we wear it on our wrist. Additionally, another little random tip is, while I said to put the one-step looper as close as you can to the end of the bead, which is very important to not leave a ton of gapping, which looks bad, you can leave a tiny bit of extra space like I just demonstrated there, which is sometimes necessary to leave enough space for the one-step looper to like fully close, or for there to be enough space to make a loop against the bead. So it's kind of a little bit of a balancing game that you'll get better at the more practice you have and the more that you use the one-step looper. Ta-da! Now you have everything fully on their wires. It looks great. We've got that bottom row ready with all the accent beads, and then the main larger beads in the top row, and they're all ready to be put together with jump rings. So let's go! Now we're connecting all of our pieces with jump rings, and I feel like it is very important how you string these pieces through the jump rings, and I have a very specific way that I like to do it, which I will show you today. So you want to thread them all on in order, following this circular shape that I'm making with my finger, except actually reversed of what I just did. Like I literally went the wrong direction, but you are gonna follow that sort of circular path of adding the 2 main beads, then all of the accent beads in order, and then the last 2 main beads. This is the way that I prefer to put my bracelets together. You can also do them other ways, but I'll show you in a second why I choose to do this. It makes it so that all of the accent beads are all facing the same direction when you wear the bracelet, which I really like. Okay, now that all the pieces are hanging on the jump ring in order, we're gonna close out that jump ring, and then you'll see, voila, we have the main beads on either side of the bracelet, and we have those 3 accent beads all hanging downwards. Now for our next few jump rings, we are going to repeat this process, and we are going to match where the accent beads as we thread the rest of our section. So for this next one, I'm putting that jump ring on there, and then I'm going to make sure that the accent beads are facing the same direction on the jump ring as those center accent beads. So I'm going to hang them down on this left side because that's the same place as the middle accent beads. As you can see, they're both matching and they're both on the same side of their jump rings, and then I'm just gonna add the main beads on the other side, and now you have 2 whole sections of your bracelet done. Woo! Now here is the reason why I like to do that. When you have the bracelet on your wrist, you can see that all of the accent beads are going down, or if you flip it, then they're all going up, which technically is down when your hand is actually facing the ground, if that makes sense. But basically, I like it on my bracelets when all of the accent beads face the same way. It's more of like a charm bracelet that way when they all hang the same way, but I've seen bracelets do it either way. That's just my preference. I hope that this isn't too oddly specific and nitpicky of information. Just like in my last video, I'm trying to give a lot of very specific tips that I've learned throughout my years making jewelry. And I did get a comment on the cluster keychain tutorial saying that they were super grateful for all of the niche tips, so I really hope that you guys enjoy them. Now I have just done the same thing with the next jump ring. I'm about to close it out, and then we will have 1/2 of our bracelet completely finished. As you can see here, when I set down the bracelet, I try to kind of sweep it across the surface so that all of the accent beads face down as I place it down, if that makes sense. We have one side done, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. It's looking gorgeous, it's looking gorgeous. All that's left now is to add the clasps on either end, and as you can see, all of those little accent beads are all facing the same direction on the bracelet, which is exactly what we want. Let's finish this bracelet. Now, I used to use a spool of chain and lobster clasp for my bracelet, and both of these are linked in my Amazon storefront if you would like to use these. The benefit to this method is that the size of the bracelet can be adjustable. I used to have about 1 inch of chain on the ends of my bracelets, which made them adjustable up to an extra inch. And while I do miss that aspect of using these as my clasps, they made it super difficult to put on my bracelets by yourself. So I switched to these heart and stick clasps, which are much easier to put on yourself. I'll demonstrate later in this video how exactly to use them. And now whenever people buy my bracelets either at market or online, I have the option to adjust the length of the bracelet and make it either smaller or longer without needing to use that chain and that really difficult lobster clasp. Now we're just gonna take a jump ring and hook these onto either end of the bracelet, super easy peasy. Ta-da! Congratulations, your cluster bracelet is completely finished. It is so adorable, from the heart clasps to the little accent beads. Now it's time to try it on and make sure that it fits. Actually, I'm about to try mine on here and it doesn't fit, so I'm gonna show you how to really quickly make it a little bit longer. We're gonna take one of these little jump rings and we're gonna add one singular bead to one of the ends, and we're gonna add a couple of accent beads as well so that it looks intentional and super cute. This honestly happens more often than I'd like to admit when I'm making my bracelets. It's not an exact science science how long the 6 rows of 2 beads is because beads vary in size. So as you can see, I've lined up the singular new bead just on that end of the bracelet, and then we're gonna put together a couple really quick accent beads. I went with one of these pearls and one of these little crystal ones. Now we're just attaching it like we did with the rest of the bracelet, and here is a close-up of how that new bead and its little accent beads look. Just gonna reattach that little end piece, and now the bracelet is officially done, and I'm gonna show you how to put it on. I know it's kind of hard to see, but this clasp is all about tension, so the goal is just to pull that pin through the heart. Once you get halfway through the heart, you just kind of need to wiggle your way all the way through, and then it just sits there with tension between the heart and the stick. And just listen, it's so jingly! Oh my gosh, my skin is so red from being dry this winter. This is about the looseness that the bracelet sits at, and typically I like my bracelets to be a little bit tighter than this, but I've had a lot of customers in person at markets put it on and say that this is perfect. So I think a lot of girlies don't mind it being a little bit loose where it hangs lower on your hand and it can jingle jangle and swing around your arm. Now for how to take it off, you just pull that pin as high as you can out of the heart and you push it back through, and that releases the bracelet. And there you have it! I really love how this cute pink aesthetic bracelet came out, and unfortunately it has already sold. It literally sold the day I dropped it. But if you are interested in any of my other pieces, my jewelry shop is aussiesjewelry.bigcartel.com, and you can definitely keep in touch through my Instagram at aussiesjewelry over on Instagram. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment down below if you found this helpful, and subscribe for more cozy jewelry tutorials and small business content. See you in the next one. Bye!